Hey, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you spending some time with us. State of the State address, the governor laying out her vision for the state. And it's one of the things, I'm pretty opinionated. I think I'm pretty vocal in my opinions, but I love the process. I don't know that I'd want to be a part of the process, but I love the process. I do like the branches of government and the separation of powers. And I do, as much as I disagree with the other side of the aisle on many, many things, the checks and balances that no one side always gets their way, and there has to be some negotiation. When it comes to our United States government, the way the Senate is set up, when I like the idea, I'm glad that they've kept in the filibuster. They call the Senate the saucer that cools the drink, where the House of Representatives, called the People's House, is where it's just a simple majority, but in the Senate it takes more than that in many cases. And also they have the power of using that using the filibuster to slow things down so we don't have these big swings in government. But at the state level, the idea that the state legislature is going to come together and the process of getting a bill sponsored and getting a bill through a committee and then to the full chamber for a vote in both chambers and then to the governor's desk to be contemplated and negotiated so that the governor doesn't veto a bill is just how our system is, so that one side doesn't just run over the top of the other. That doesn't mean that I'm always going to agree with the results, and often I don't, just like many people don't. But I have to tell you, I love the process. I really do love the process. And part of it is what's frustrating to many is the headlines. When you get involved, you do form your opinions based on who you're involved with. But when you get involved in this process, or when you get involved politically, when you start to know the people that are involved, I've gone down and I've watched the process. I've actually done a request to speak in a committee and spoken in favor of bills that I thought that eventually became laws, which I thought was very cool to play a small role in watching that happen. But you do begin to see the politics, and you do become more of a cynic because you see it on both sides of the aisle. We all want, and I wish there was a way, and it's not possible. This is not possible. But I wish there was a way that we could start from a place where everybody agreed we want what's best. We don't. We don't agree on that at all. We may agree in principle that we do, but there are individuals that become self-centered. There are individuals that are selfish. There are people that are greedy. And there are people that are just flat out liars. They're self-promoters and liars. But when we watch this process at work, in the end, we should look at it from a point of view that what's best for the future of Arizona. Yes, what's best for the present, but what about the future? What about education in Arizona? We've been arguing about this. I've been in Arizona for almost 30 years. It'll be 29 years next month I will have been in Arizona. 29 years in February. And we've been arguing about the state of education in Arizona ever since. In the last dozen years, but at least the last 10, we have thrown money at education. Doesn't mean it's enough necessarily, but we have not seen growth in conjunction with the amount of money that we've spent. What is it that we all can agree on needs to happen? I love school choice. I do. I think that giving parents options breeds competition. I think competition breeds excellence. When you look at how this is working right now, it's at its infancy. But school choice seems to me to be a fundamental right. You look at any other aspect of your life, and it's one of the things about education being one of those untouchable areas, and I think it's a fantasy. I don't think it is untouchable. I think everything is accessible. And what I mean by that is you can dig in and you can make changes and you can request changes and you can force changes, and it's a good thing. You think about your children, and is there another avenue? Is there another adult that could get away with talking to your child about the most intimate things in their lives? Body parts, gender, sexuality, without your knowledge, and when they do, they don't have to tell you. And in many places in education, that's how it goes, and people say it should be that way. Doctors have to have a witness in a room to have an exam on women, but especially on children. There has to be somebody else in the room. This, to me, is outrageous. What I mean by that is we've got to take this stigma away. The idea that you don't make the medical decisions for your child because the doctors and nurses are the experts is also False. The education for your child, or I'm sorry, the medical attention for your child is your decision. You get, God forbid, and we've all known people that have had children and become very ill. They will take their children to multiple doctors to get opinions on what the course of action should be. And then the parents sit down and they make the best decision in the interest of their child. And then they go back to that expert and they let that expert do their work. In education, for a long time, we've been told, especially public education, we've been told this is the school your child goes to. If you don't like it, tough. Then we open it up, and as long as there's room in another school, you can go to the other school, but the money stays here. So the wealthy people that have means, or unless they get a scholarship, and their children are able to go to a better school that have a better chance of higher academic achievements, that's why the rich keep getting richer. Isn't that what we all believe? Wealthy people can send their children to the best schools. That's not fair, many people say. School choice is opening that door for other kids. Well, rich people are taking advantage of it. Who cares? You can take advantage of it. You have a gifted child. You have a child that excels in all academics, or certainly in one area of academics, and you have a child that's gifted, and you can get that child into a better school. You have choices, so your child isn't stuck in a classroom somewhere where they are just... I had a friend growing up, my buddy, his younger brother was flunking out of high school. I mean, almost straight Fs. He got a 100% on his SATs. Then he went from being Fs in high school to being accepted to every college in the United States because he got a perfect score on the SAT. This kid was such a genius, school was boring to him. That wasn't the right place for him. The classic classroom setting where many of us excelled, got the education we needed to go on to the next part of our life, didn't fit this kid. He was spinning his wheels and doing nothing in high school, playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends. He was too smart for high school. Went on to college, learned to speak Arabic, became a translator, owns a business, because they found an avenue that suited him. The idea that one size fits all needs to stop. And anybody that's an opponent of the idea of the ESA expansion and school choice is missing out. Because this isn't about rich people taking advantage. What this is about working class families having choices, having options. And if that damages the school system and it makes them work harder, good. Quite frankly, good. The public school system should work harder. They should be paid more money, but they should work harder. It should be a more effective system.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.